Did you know your brain stays alive for 12 seconds after decapitation? And that's just one of the insane facts you're about to learn today. From brains that generate electricity to the shocking truth about memory, let's dive deep into the mind-blowing world of your brain. Number 1. Your brain stays alive for 12 seconds after decapitation. What happens if your head gets chopped off? Well, your brain doesn't shut down instantly. In fact, for about 10 to 12 seconds, it remains alive, fully conscious and aware. That means for a terrifying few moments, you'd actually realize what just happened. Historical evidence. There are stories from the French Revolution where beheaded prisoners' eyes blinked and lips moved after execution. Some doctors even experimented by calling out names. And for a second, the severed head seemed to react. Why does this happen? The brain still has oxygenated blood for a few seconds, keeping neural activity going until it completely shuts down. So technically, in those last moments, the brain might still be processing thoughts, emotions, and even pain. Creepy, right? But let's move on to something even crazier. Number 2, your brain generates enough electricity to power a light bulb. Right now, inside your skull, your brain is generating about 12 to 25 watts of electricity. That's enough to power a small LED light bulb. How? Your brain communicates using tiny electrical signals between neurons. With 86 billion neurons constantly firing, it creates a surprising amount of energy. Fun experiment. If you've ever touched a plasma ball and seen electricity jump to your fingers, imagine something similar happening inside your head at all times. This means your brain isn't just a thinking machine, it's an actual power source. But what if I told you it also tricks you into seeing things that aren't real? Number 3, your brain can trick you into seeing things that aren't there. Ever seen something move in the corner of your eye, only to turn and find nothing there? That's your brain playing tricks on you. Why it happens? Your brain fills in missing details from your vision, using memory and patterns to guess what you should be seeing. Sometimes it guesses wrong. There are some optical illusions, and they are the blind spot test. Close one eye, focus on a dot, and another dot next to it disappears. Your brain fills in the gap with background color or face recognition illusions. Ever seen a scary face in the dark, only for it to turn into a pile of clothes? That's called pareidolia. Your brain loves finding patterns, even when they aren't there. So next time you think you saw a ghost, remember, it might just be your brain playing tricks on you. Speaking of tricks, did you know your brain rewrites your memories every time you recall them? Number 4, memories are rewritten every time you remember them. Think you have a perfect memory? Think again. Every time you recall a moment from the past, your brain reconstructs it, and it might not be accurate. Memory is like a game of telephone. Every time you remember something, tiny details change, making the memory less reliable. Example, if you recall a childhood memory, chances are your brain has edited it multiple times. What you remember today may not be exactly what happened. This is why eyewitness testimony is unreliable. People genuinely believe false memories, and this is one of the real-life problems. So if your brain keeps changing its own past, can we really trust anything we remember? Speaking of myths, let's bust a big one. Do we really only use 10% of our brain? Number 5, the 10% brain myth is completely false. You've probably heard that humans only use 10% of their brains, right? Well, that's 100% wrong. Scientific proof, MRI scans show that almost all areas of the brain are active, even when we're resting or sleeping. How the myth started. It came from a misinterpretation of a 19th century study, but movies like Lucy and Limitless made it even more popular. And the reality is, if we only use 10%, brain injuries wouldn't be such a big deal, but even small brain damage can cause major issues. So next time someone says, we only use 10% of our brain, you can correct them. But here's something even crazier. Did you know your brain can taste and smell even without your nose or mouth? Number 6, your brain can smell without your nose. Believe it or not, scientists have discovered that brain cells can detect odors and flavors without your nose or tongue. Neuroscience discovery says that some brain receptors react to chemicals that normally trigger taste or smell, meaning certain brain cells can sense flavors internally. The one weird side effect is that some people with synesthesia can taste words or sounds because their brain wiring crosses senses. So technically, your brain is doing way more than we ever thought. And speaking of amazing abilities, did you know your brain rewires itself when you lose a sense? Number 7, your brain can rewire itself if you lose a sense. If someone goes blind, their brain doesn't just stop working. Other senses become superhuman to compensate. For example, blind people often develop enhanced hearing because their brain strengthens auditory pathways. Your brain is always changing, adapting, and rewiring itself based on your environment, and it's called neuroplasticity. Yep, so your brain isn't just a learning machine, it's an adaptive powerhouse that changes itself to fit your needs. But what about dreams? Did you know your brain actually solves problems while you sleep? Number 8, your brain can predict the future, sort of. Ever had a gut feeling about something before it happened? Turns out your brain is constantly predicting the future. How it works. Your brain doesn't just process what's happening right now, it constantly guesses what will happen next based on patterns and past experiences. For example, if you're walking down the street and see a car moving fast, your brain instantly predicts its path so you don't step in front of it. Proof. In sports, professional athletes react in milliseconds because their brains are trained to anticipate movements before they happen. So the next time you just know something's about to happen, trust it, your brain is way ahead of you. But speaking of weird brain abilities, did you know your brain actually shrinks when you're stressed? Number 9. Stress literally shrinks your brain. Feeling stressed out? You might want to relax because chronic stress can actually make your brain smaller. Why it happens? Well, long-term stress releases cortisol, a hormone that damages brain cells and shrinks the hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for memory and learning. Real-life impact. People with extreme stress often struggle with focus and decision-making. In severe cases, stress can even cause memory loss. How to fix it? Activities like meditation, exercise, and sleep help reverse the damage and rebuild brain cells. So if you've been feeling mentally exhausted, it's not just in your head. Your brain is literally suffering. Now let's talk about something even crazier. Your brain is mostly made of fat. Number 10, your brain is 60% fat, and that's a good thing. Your brain is the fattiest organ in your body. About 60% of it is pure fat. But don't worry, this is actually a good thing. Why it matters. Brain fat isn't like body fat. It's made of special omega-3 fatty acids, which are essential for brain function. Eating foods rich in healthy fats, like fish, nuts, and avocados, helps boost memory and concentration. The danger: diets that completely cut out fat can actually damage brain function, leading to brain fog and slower thinking. So if you want to keep your brain sharp, feed it the right kind of fat. Speaking of food, did you know your brain burns calories even when you're just thinking? Number 11, thinking too hard can literally tire you out. Ever felt mentally drained after studying for hours? That's because thinking burns real energy. Even though it's only 2% of your body weight, your brain uses 20% of your body's energy. Proof: chess players can burn up to 6,000 calories a day, just from intense thinking during tournaments. Even everyday decision-making tires out your brain, which is why you feel exhausted after a long day of work or school. The fix? Short mental breaks and proper hydration help restore brain energy. So next time you feel exhausted after a tough test or long workday, just remember, your brain is working hard, but what if I told you your brain might actually be able to control time? Number 12, your brain can slow down time in dangerous situations. Ever been in a scary moment where everything seemed to happen in slow motion? That's your brain switching into survival mode. How it works. When you're in danger, your brain releases adrenaline, making your senses hyper-aware and processing information faster than usual. This creates the illusion that time is slowing down. Real-life examples. People in car accidents often say they saw events unfold in slow motion. Some extreme athletes, like skydivers, report time feeling stretched during free fall. So your brain isn't just reacting to the world, it's actually controlling how you experience it. But here's something even crazier. Did you know your brain never actually feels pain? Number 13, your brain itself can't feel pain. You'd think the brain, the center of all thoughts and sensations, would feel pain, right? But surprisingly, your brain has no pain receptors at all. This is why brain surgery can be done with patients wide awake. They literally can't feel it. How do headaches happen? It's actually pain in your skull, blood vessels, or surrounding tissues, not the brain itself. Weird experiment, and some scientists have even poked live human brains with permission, and the patients felt nothing. So next time you get a headache, don't blame your brain. It's actually the nerves around it causing the pain. But what if I told you that while you sleep, your brain literally washes itself? Number 14, while you sleep, your brain cleans itself. When you sleep, your brain doesn't just rest, it actually washes itself with cerebrospinal fluid to remove toxins and waste. Why it's important: your brain accumulates toxic waste throughout the day from normal thinking. If you don't sleep enough, these toxins build up, increasing the risk of brain diseases like Alzheimer's. The fix: deep sleep is when this brain cleaning happens, so aim for at least 7 to 9 hours per night. So getting a good night's sleep isn't just about feeling rested, it's literally your brain's way of staying clean and healthy. But here's something even crazier. Did you know your brain can survive without oxygen longer than most organs? Number 15. Your brain can survive without oxygen for up to 6 minutes. If your heart stops, most of your body shuts down in seconds. But your brain, it fights to stay alive for up to 6 minutes. Why? Your brain has backup energy reserves to keep functioning even when oxygen supply is cut off. Real life example: some people who have drowned in freezing water have been revived after 10 plus minutes with zero brain damage because cold temperatures slow brain activity, preserving it. The catch: beyond 6 minutes, brain cells start dying rapidly, leading to irreversible damage. So if medical help arrives quickly, your brain might actually cheat death. But what if I told you there's one part of your brain that doesn't age with the rest of you? Number 16. Babies have more brain cells than adults, but lose them fast. Here's a crazy fact: babies are born with about 100 billion neurons, way more than an adult. So why do we lose them? The reason: a baby's brain is like a blank slate, ready to absorb everything, but to function efficiently, it needs to prune unnecessary connections. This happens fast. By age 2, the brain is making 1 million new connections per second. But by adulthood, nearly half of those connections disappear because they're not being used. The lesson: the more you use your brain, the more it keeps those connections. So babies actually start with superpowered brains, but it's the ones who keep learning that stay ahead. But here's something even crazier. Number 17. Your brain can predict when your alarm will ring. Ever woken up seconds before your alarm? That's not a coincidence. It's your brain acting like an internal clock. How it works: your body follows a cycle called the circadian rhythm, which controls sleep and wakefulness. The mind-blowing part: if you consistently wake up at the same time, your brain starts preparing your body in advance. It releases stress hormones before your alarm rings, making you wake up naturally. Want to test it? Try setting your alarm at a fixed time every day. Your brain might start waking you up before it even goes off. So if you ever wake up a minute before your alarm, congrats! Your brain just outsmarted your clock. But tell me, which of these facts blew your mind the most? Drop a comment and don't forget to subscribe for more. Number 18. Your brain waves can sync with someone else's. You know that feeling when you're completely in sync with someone? It's not just a feeling, your brain waves are actually matching up. The science: when two people deeply connect, whether through conversation, music, or teamwork, their brain waves begin to synchronize. Proof: studies on musicians show that when they play together, their brain activity moves in perfect sync. The same happens between close friends or couples who are deeply engaged in conversation. The craziest part: even strangers' brain waves can sync just by watching the same movie or listening to the same story. So next time you really vibe with someone, it's not just in your head. Your brains are literally working in harmony. But speaking of insane brain abilities, did you know your brain has no limit to how much it can learn? Number 19. Your brain remembers everything, but blocks most of it. Right now, your brain is storing everything you see, hear, and experience. So why can't you remember most of it? The truth: your brain doesn't delete memories. It just hides them to prevent information overload. Proof: hypnosis or brain injuries can unlock forgotten memories, showing they were never actually erased. Some people with hyperthymesia can remember every single day of their life in perfect detail. Why you forget? Your brain filters out unimportant details so you don't waste energy on things you don't need. So your brain is like a giant hard drive with a locked folder of hidden memories. Number 20. Your brain can rewire itself, even after major damage. Did you know your brain can literally rewire itself, almost like it's repairing a broken circuit? Even if parts of it get damaged, it can find new ways to work. How it works. This process is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and form new connections. Real life example? There are cases where people who suffered strokes or brain injuries lost their ability to speak or move, but over time, their brain rerouted signals to other undamaged areas. The lesson? The more you challenge your brain by learning new skills, solving puzzles, or even using your non-dominant hand, the stronger and more adaptable it becomes. So your brain isn't just a machine, it's a self-repairing supercomputer. But here's something even crazier. Number 21, your brain is shrinking and no one knows why. Bad news. Your brain is getting smaller, but why? Scientists aren't entirely sure. The shocking truth, studies show that the modern human brain is 10% smaller than it was thousands of years ago. What's causing it? Some believe it's because our ancestors needed bigger brains to survive, while modern humans rely more on technology and society instead of raw intelligence. Others think the brain is becoming more efficient, like a faster but smaller processor. The weird part, even though our brains are shrinking, IQ levels have actually risen over the past century, meaning size doesn't always equal intelligence. So your brain is getting smaller, but maybe that's not a bad thing. Who knows? Maybe in the future we won't even need a brain at all. Or will we? Number 22. Your brain can create hallucinations without drugs. Think hallucinations only happen on drugs. Think again. Your brain can make you see, hear, or feel things that aren't real completely on its own. Why it happens. Your brain relies on sensory input to understand reality, but sometimes it fills in gaps with false information. For example, example 1. Ever felt your phone vibrate in your pocket, but it wasn't? That's called phantom vibration syndrome. Your brain tricking you. Example 2. People who spend too much time alone can start seeing shadows move or hearing voices. It's the brain trying to create stimulation. Example 3. Some people with sleep paralysis even see terrifying figures because their brain is half dreaming while awake. The takeaway? Your brain can create entire fake realities, sometimes without you even knowing it. So, if you've ever seen or felt something that wasn't really there, don't panic. It's just your brain doing its weird thing. But what if I told you your brain is so powerful it can literally ignore pain? Number 23. Your brain can ignore pain if it really wants to. Pain is supposed to warn you when something is wrong. But did you know your brain can actually turn it off? How it works. The brain produces natural painkillers called endorphins, which work even better than morphine. In extreme situations like soldiers in battle, people have reported getting shot or injured but feeling nothing until later. The craziest example? There are monks and extreme meditators who can walk across burning coals or get stabbed with needles without flinching, all because they've trained their brain to ignore pain. Can you do it too? Yes. Some breathing techniques and meditation methods can actually reduce pain by changing how your brain perceives it. So technically, pain is all in your head, but what if I told you your brain slows down time? Number 24. Your brain can manipulate time and slow it down. Ever felt like time slowed down during a life-threatening moment? Turns out your brain has a built-in slow motion effect. How it works. Your brain doesn't actually slow down time. It speeds up how much information it processes. In high-stress situations, your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for emotions, goes into overdrive. This makes you notice way more details than usual, making time feel stretched out. A real-life example, people who survive car crashes often say that everything felt like it was happening in slow motion. This is because their brain was working overtime, absorbing more details per second. The wildest part? Some researchers believe you can actually train yourself to experience this effect by practicing extreme focus and mindfulness. So next time time feels like it's slowing down, your brain is just speeding up. But what if I told you some people are actually born with two brains? Number 25. Some people are born with two brains and they can function separately. Yes, really, some people are born with two brains and their minds can work separately at the same time. How? The brain is divided into two hemispheres, connected by a bridge called the corpus callosum. But in rare cases, some people are born with this connection missing or severed, meaning their two brain halves operate independently. What happens? Scientists found that these people can literally think two different thoughts at once. One side of their body might do something, while the other side does the opposite. The craziest example, a person with a split brain was shown an object with one eye, but when asked to name it, they couldn't. Yet their other hand could reach out and grab it without knowing why. So some people actually have two minds inside one skull. But what if I told you your brain knows when you die? Number 26. Your brain knows when you're about to die, but no one knows what happens next. What if I told you your brain knows the exact moment you're about to die, but here's the craziest part: no one knows what happens next. Scientists have discovered that in the final moments, right before death, the brain experiences a sudden burst of activity, almost like it's waking up. What's happening? A study on dying patients found that their brainwaves spiked, similar to those seen during deep meditation or intense memory recall. This could explain why people who've had near-death experiences report seeing their life flash before their eyes or feeling a sense of peace. The mystery? No one knows what happens after that. Does the brain create a final dream, a last goodbye, or is it something even deeper? Some researchers believe this could be the brain's way of preparing for the unknown. So in your final moments, your brain doesn't just shut off. It might actually be showing you something incredible. But what that is a mystery only the dead know. Think about that. And if you want more mind-blowing facts, hit that like button and subscribe for more.